Corporate Downfall. Chapter 5, Propagation Delay. Jonah Reyes read the letter 3 times before he believed it was real. Paper was an artifact on Vesta Station. Not illegal, just pointless. Anything worth saying traveled faster, cleaner, cheaper through corporate channels. Which meant that anything written by hand had already answered the most important question. Why can't this be transmitted? Jonah locked his quarters, killed the lights, and read it a 4th time. It wasn't a manifesto. It wasn't angry. It didn't ask him to fight. It explained how labor value was siphoned invisibly. How maintenance-era systems trusted access that had never been revoked. How profit wasn't generated so much as skimmed, endlessly, automatically, without intent, just procedure. Most importantly, it explained restraint. Do not take much. Do not take fast. Do not break anything. Correction, not collapse. Jonah felt something settle into place as he finished the final page. Elias wasn't trying to burn the corporations down. He was trying to make them insolvent. And insolvency didn't require revolution. It required scale. Jonah adapted the logic to Vesta Station over the next 6 nights. He didn't copy Elias's paths directly. Vesta's systems were newer, cleaner, better documented. But the assumption underneath was the same. Maintenance access was absolute. Legacy reconciliation pools still existed, buried under decades of reorganizations. Automated labor schemes ran without oversight because they were assumed to be mathematically correct. Jonah nudged them. A fraction here. A rounding error there. Credits rerouted back into worker accounts under old compensation categories no longer audited by modern systems. Nothing broke. Balances shifted. People noticed. Not enough to celebrate. Just enough to breathe. Once he was confident the logic held, Jonah faced the harder question. Who next? Not just anyone. The wrong person would talk. Or rush. Or take too much. The corporations didn't fear theft, they feared patterns. He needed reach. He needed proximity. He needed Mars. Mars wasn't a colony anymore. It was infrastructure. Long before humanity expanded outward, Mars had been hollowed out, its ancient volcanic rock carved into server vaults deep beneath the surface. Space itself cooled them. Distance insulated them. Physical mass protected them in ways orbital systems never could. Corporate central servers lived there. And Jonah knew someone who still worked close enough to hear them hum. Her name was Priya Deshmukh. She didn't manage the servers. No human did. She maintained the environment, thermal regulation, structural integrity, emergency access pathways that were supposed to never be used. Supposed to. Jonah wrote. He copied Elias's instructions by hand, adding his own annotations, where Vesta differed, what assumptions still held, what not to touch. He didn't tell Priya what to do. He told her what was possible. And he told her one more thing. Don't send this back to me. Don't send it back to Ceres. Send it outward. Because the corporations would look inward. They would reinforce the center. Harden Mars. Tighten oversight where the servers lived. They would never expect the response to radiate away from power. Weeks later, deep beneath Mars's surface, Priya read the letter in a maintenance alcove where signal reception dropped to nothing. She understood immediately why Jonah had chosen her. The servers were cold. Ancient. Built in layers, each one assuming the integrity of the layer below it. Legacy access still existed, not to data, but to flow. Thermal routing. Power compensation. Load balancing across subsidiaries no longer considered active. She didn't touch the data. She touched the assumptions. From Mars, the logic moved again, but not inward. Priya sent it outward, carried by freight crews and maintenance rotations, to stations so distant that audit latency alone took weeks to resolve. The outer rim. Ice miners. Deep transit hubs. Places the corporations optimized last because the returns were slow. And everywhere the instructions landed, the same thing happened. Small amounts removed from vast pools. Small amounts returned to human hands. No breakage. No alarms. Just erosion. By the time the corporations recognized the pattern, it was no longer a line. It was a mesh. Distributed. Redundant. Human. They tightened controls at the center and watched losses continue to grow at the edges. They could not shut down the solar system. They could only calculate. And for the first time since humanity had sold itself for efficiency, the math was starting to fail.